Briggs, sports consultant and mentor. Today's video is just me just telling you about myself. I've gotten some questions about how I started, how I built the brand, just how I got here so fast. And the reality is, just like a lot of people say, it wasn't overnight. It was actually a process. And the overnight process seems to have come the way that it came because everything was already in order, right? So, I did have some hecklers, I guess you can call them, and this gentleman basically asked me if I've coached tens of thousands of athletes. He did the math, and he's like, you would have to have 500 athletes, and did some type of thing, right? And I was like, what I hear him saying is, I don't believe you. How is it that you're able to do what you're doing? And that's a valid question. How am I able to watch someone triple jump, switch their feet after one jump, and say, switch your feet, do these three things, and they improve 3 feet in triple jump? How am I able to watch a video and say, do this one thing and you're going to gain about 7 to 8 inches, and that athlete actually gain 8 inches and win the Rhode Island Indoor State Championship for a long jump? It's like, how are you able to do these things? Because at the end of the day, what I'm providing is a specific experience and a specific solution. And it's not easy, right? Triple jump is an event that most of the time, I want to say about 95% of the time, the athletes that I work with have never seen it before. So I found a way to specialize in an event that most people don't know about. Anyone can long jump. Anybody can. They can literally just run and jump over a pond. Anyone can just run and jump onto a pit. Like, that's anyone can do long jump. But now, how do you get good at it? And what's the science behind it? How do you remove the flaws? Well, that's come from hours and hours and hours of studying. I've put down this time. So I'm going to talk about my story, how I got started, the reason how I, received over 20 years of experience, and how my brand has been built. My dog is in the background barking. I can't stop him because I'm live, so he's in the background. Okay, all right. So I started personal training when I was 19. At 19 years old, I was working for LA Fitness as a personal training salesperson, right? So I was already now in this environment of fitness, activities, all these things. The only experience I had was performance. I just did sports, and I did sports at a very high level. So was doing that. And while I was in junior college, I was working this job. I then didn't feel that I really liked how I was telling them this telling the clients this story, like, you can lose weight, you can get in shape, you can do all these things, but I wasn't the one that was providing the service. I was just telling them their dreams can come true, and then passing them off to someone else, and that someone else I didn't trust in. I didn't believe that they could get the results that the person was looking for. So I went ahead and got certified, and at 20 years old, I became a personal trainer. And as this process was going on, um, I was mentored by some great people. I was mentored by, I don't know, remember her name, but she basically broke down the gym and said, look, this gym is made by men. The engineers behind all these machines and all these things. So when you have a woman work out on these machines, the machines are tailored and designed for the width of a man's shoulders. Women's shoulders aren't as wide, and they're not built the same, right? So as we use these machines, what's happening now is we're using these machines at angles that don't fit our physical body. So now our body's going to mold to fit the machines. And back then, you didn't use free weights in the beginning. You did machines in the very beginning, so people wouldn't get hurt, right? Then you would advance to free weights, and that would be your advanced level of training. Anyway, what I did was I went straight into the the functional training, the actual free weight stuff. Why? Because I was looking at them and, okay, you want to lose 30 pounds, and we're on this year contract. To get you to lose 30 pounds, we need to lose this many calories. So to lose this many calories, should I have you sitting down doing a bench press seated, or should I have you getting up doing push-ups, burpees, running upstairs, back downstairs, more push-ups? It's kind of the same thing, but we're going to burn more calories and it seems more fun, right? So I kept that mentality to my training. Then as I went on, I started to test myself with certain things and say, okay, well, what if I were to teach you how to do an exercise without physically showing you? So then I learned how to communicate exactly what I had in my mind to my actual client, and they were losing weight. I had clients lose 80 pounds in 8 months, 30 pounds in 3 months. Like the top tier results were on average about 10 pounds per month, which is like really impressive. And what really impressed me was they were only training with me 30 minutes 3 times a week. And I'm thinking, you live so much more of your life without me around. And you're telling me you're able to lose this much weight. And it was men, women, young, old, all types of people getting in phenomenal shape. So I said the physical body, the human body is miraculous and it can do so many things. So then I took um, this time information, right? And then I went off to Cal State Los Angeles, where I then was introduced to Dave Schumann, who was the owner of National Underclassmen. National Underclassmen is a football combine for high school kids. And the goal behind it is for them to do this combine to then to be seen by coaches of their performance levels. You've heard of this NFL combine. It's a skills test that tests your 40-meter dash, your vertical jump, your standing long jump, and a couple other bench press and a couple other skills, right? Well, they did that for the high schoolers. It was originally for juniors and seniors. It advanced all the way down to eighth grade through all of high school. And so I was a part of their West Coast team. And each time we went and traveled to these locations, it was 400 to 500 kids. And within this time frame, I was able to meet them over these weekends and work with 500 kids at a time. There were times where I get a phone call and they say, "Hey, you busy?" And I'd be like, "No, I got work today." But and they were like, "Hey, we need you in Oregon." So then I would literally just tell my boss, "Hey, can I leave for the weekend?" I would grab my stuff, my one bag, and travel a quick flight midday to Oregon and work with 400 kids. So it was crazy. Um, so that was another layer of how many kids I was able to actually work with through this time. I was with them for about 3 or 4 years, and then from there, I was also competing as a college athlete. So I was getting knowledge from Sheila Hudson, who was a 5-time NCAA champion, indoor and outdoor, and was also a triple jump women's American record holder. So I was getting training from all areas. I was getting something that was working, something that wasn't working. I was applying my own thing. I was also in kinesiology, which I didn't stick within because they were telling me this is how you actually get in shape. This is how your body moves. Showing me videos and pictures of Carl Lewis, and I'm like, that's not it though. So I was challenging what I was learning, but I was getting a poor grade in the class because I wasn't reciting what the teacher was saying. So I backed out of that class so quick, right? Um, and I decided, how about I learn on my own these things because I was working with the physical person, the physical body. And I was saying, hey, modify your legs like this, and then they would physically improve. Hey, when you're doing your shuttle run, I want you to drop your hips and reach with this arm and do all these things. But then it didn't. I would bring those ideas to kinesiology, and I was being told that was incorrect. So I was then looking at the back of the book to see when was this book written. And it was written in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And I'm like, these books are post dated, they're out of date. So why am I teaching these new kids in 2000 or 2004, 2005 a 20-year-old philosophy? So I just got rid of that and I said, okay, I'm going to read the new book. So I was then educating myself on these things and applying these things. I got hurt the next year, hurt my hamstring, studied why and how my body was injured, studied the hamstring, the multiple parts of it, studied the anatomy, put a lot of work in with this concept, and then trained myself that off season. And then when I came back the next season, I was ranked in the US. Set PR at my very first track meet. I was like ready to go. And I was like, this really works what I was doing. Switched over to communications because that's a major that I really enjoyed. And it's obviously benefiting myself here. Okay. And then from there, I'm still working with this national underclassmen. I was working with private clients, but then moved out of that. My mom needed help financially, so I took a semester off to support her. During that time, I was working in a private studio where they had boot camps and uh, training classes and all that stuff. So now I'm working with 50 people at a time, adults, kids, and the owner of that facility was like, "Hey, my son wants to get better at speed. Can you support him?" I taught him, and she was like, "I've taken him to numerous trainers, and you worked with him for 30 minutes, and I can see his form change immediately, and he looks faster." And that comment to me woke me up, and I'm like, I got to work with athletes. So then I started to work with athletes only. I got rid of the private clients, 2007 or so, and worked with athletes. So all these things are happening. I graduated college 2008. Then I went to New Jersey to work with athletes. I was doing the same thing, got them to improve. Then I put together a program for myself in 2009 where I said, you know what, I'm going to do these specific drills. Then I did a football combine just to kind of see where I was at. I had a 10-2 broad jump, 4.39 40, 40.5 inch vertical. Bench press, I didn't partake in that, but still I was jumping. Like I literally have a video, and you can look it up in my YouTube channel. But it's an 8 foot 4 inch standing long jump from 1 foot. And I was really, really bouncing. I was like, okay, my body's ready. I feel healthy. A lot of things are working out. And so I took this concept and idea back with me. So I ended up moving back to California. I was working at Athletic Republic, where now I'm working with athletes only, and it's a revolving door of athletes over and over again. Um, and now we're working with the scientists who created this program that created consistent results every single athlete. And I'm like, okay, how is this working? So I watched it and then I applied it because I was competing professionally. So I applied this concept. Then I met Rick Stassi. Rick Stassi taught me the concept of remove the weight training, add in functional, develop strength training, right? So I did this, understood the CNS, and just went in central nervous system training, all those things, right? And like just got so much knowledge. He was the strength and conditioning coach for the Angels, for the Seahawks. Like, and then I had the scientists that were working through Athletic Republic. It was just so many moving parts happening. And I said, okay, I then developed my specific program and enhanced it with this knowledge that I received. And then from there, I said, okay, I'm ready to roll this out because I did it on myself. I'm ranked in the world. Now let's put this to high schoolers. Kel Kavanan, who's now the coach of Portola High School, Dustin Holtz, who's now just a great human being, Victoria Reich, right? The two guys were sprinters. Victoria Reich was a pole vaulter. So I had them running. They both were running 11.4 at that time. They dropped down to 10.9. Victoria Reich became, at the time, Cal Berkeley's like best pole vaulter. And it was just like everything worked. Everything clicked. Well, 2012, I brought this program to high school. I started my first year of high school coaching in 2012. I started working with high school athletes in 2007. So the reason why in those the official season, yeah, it was 2012 to 2019, I was able to have five CIF champions, a state championship, two CIF championships for the team. Like the reason why this thing seemed like it was overnight was because everything I just told you. There was so many experiences that I had before, right? I used to be the strength and conditioning coach for Huntington Beach High School. That flopped. I trained them at the beach. I learned how to yell because at the beach and you have all levels of the high school, all levels, freshman through varsity, lacrosse. And lacrosse is it's a different sport. They're very unique people, right? Very fun. But if you don't catch their attention, they will walk right over you. And they walked right over me. So I learned a lot of these things going through this process and also traveling across the US. So I was able to be out in Oregon, be out in Utah. Where else we go? Vegas, New Jersey, like Florida, like be in these other states and get a feel for how athletes move and how they do things, the mentality behind it. So now when I start high school, I'm coming down as a pro athlete, working with professional coaches, meeting with Willie Banks, right? And now I just put that all in a track. So what I'm saying is I didn't just start this process. It's been going on for a very long time. 2009 is where I started my personal journey, and I started vlogging that. I started blogging that. And I started, telling my story about what I'm doing. And as I did it, I put that on social media, which is why I have 1,000 videos plus online. It's because it's been a very long time. So again, when I started high school, I wasn't this teacher that worked full time that said, I'm going to um, work a couple hours more after school and train these kids. No, I'm not a graduate who graduated kinesiology who now says, I want to go work with high schoolers. That's not what happened. I've done so many years, right? It was about 10 years or whatever, no, even more. It was like 7, 8 years before I actually started high school. So imagine having that many years of learning, hands-on learning before you start something. You're going to be an expert the very first day you start. And that's what happened with me, right? So when I launched Leap Squad in 2012, like the results were already moving. And that's why it was able to have that. And that's why now, 20 years into it, I can say, I can watch one person jump and tell you exactly what the flaws are, where they're making their mistakes, and how to fix them. Because when I was just sitting at home, I knew I'm like, I'm not going to work another job. If I'm not making any money, I'm going to physically do this. So 2014, 15, 16, I wasn't making any money, right? 2017 was bad when it comes to financial compensation. But basically I would be at home and I would watch the world championships of U20, U16 championships. I was watching these youth athletes and it'd be a live stream, right? But it'd be a live stream of the U20 championships and it'd be 2 hours of video. And I'm sitting there just watching and I'm seeing non-Americans jump. So now when I bring this concept into our training, I'm bringing a European style, a Cuban style of movement and all these things. Plus, I truly feel that I have the gift of being able to see movement. I can see it. And when I see it, I can figure out where it's becoming an issue. So I'm at a point now where I've kind of cracked the code of this formula of how to keep your movements positive. I feel that the first couple years of long and triple jump, it's not about um, teaching them how to jump. It's more about getting rid of the things that are preventing them from being able to jump far. And then you build upon that. And, that's why last year I had two athletes, two girls that went seventh and eighth at U20, or not U20, seventh and eighth at JO National Championships in the triple jump. And that was their first year of triple jumping, or one of them was the second year. But still, like it was their first year in that age group to be able to jump. So it's just like, it's very easy to do at this point now. And now that's why I'm able to showcase this to you guys. But all in this time, I was building my brand. And I was able to build the brand because of I've always had this entrepreneurial mindset. And on top of that, I had a social media presence because I didn't care about what people thought. Well, I did. But if but I knew just to do it anyway. Right. And so how much time am I at? Okay. Um, But the brand was built organically because I would post a video, then a kid would try this video, or a coach would try this drill, and then their athlete would improve. Then I get an email, hey coach, like I did this drill with you with my athlete and it worked. Anything else? And then I kept building upon that, kept building upon that. And now I got athletes ranked in the world. I have athletes that are all over the US, all over the world that I coach either virtually or in person. I now have a virtual online training program where kids are getting the exact same results. Ethan Fong just last year went from 43.4 to 48 feet. And he lives in Sacramento, which is 7, 8 hours away from where I live. You know, Kushal Pai gained 3 feet in triple jump and 2 feet in long, and he lives in Oregon. You know, I now have athletes that I'm managing. I've worked with so many athletes now; it's a very easy process. And on top of that, I've been coaching for so long and had my material out for so long that the coaches who are in college, that coach at the college level, were once athletes either I competed against or they took my material and used it to get to where they were to be a grad assistant to coach. It all falls into place. So the way that you build your brand is by starting to tell your story, tell your journey. Because what that'll do is it'll build it organically. There are so many people out there that buy followers and they buy all these things. At the end of the day, what I've done this whole time is I've showcased and documented exactly what I have been doing, and I'm supporting other people. When you support people, then they will provide support back by giving you feedback. And that feedback is what you take and say, okay, this worked, this didn't work, make the adjustments. But I will say for those who are looking to be in a spot like I am, or to build their own track and field club team, and how do you do this and how do you do that? It all comes down to just this, like literally this podcast, I do 3 times a week, but it's just like, why am I doing it? I felt the need because my video content that I had, that those 1,000 videos, are getting old. Some of those videos are 10 years old. However, they were so far ahead of their time at that moment that they're still relevant now. So I'm like, should I just make more of the exact same videos or do something different? Which is this, just having this conversation, which then if you end up catching this video or you have a question, then the questions are answered in this video, something like that, right? And then if you want to learn more, you can always go watch this video. So it's just being relevant in all aspects. This might change. I might do this for a couple years and then switch over. But I've decided that I can keep this going for, several years and answer all the questions you guys have, and you can go from there. But the biggest part of brand building is building connections, building your network, talking to people. I'm now learning at this point in my career how to get out and learn as much. So I'll say this: I continuously would learn about myself, all the things that I have been through. I have read multiple books. I probably was at one point reading one book a week for a couple years at a time, and these were like self-help books, um, training books sometimes, but mostly like how the psyche works because I majored in communication, and a lot of it is internal. So just everything that I've gone through, I've assessed and applied and put into track and field, and then regurgitated that out in the program. Every single thing I learned is going to go into the program and then back out. And so what happens there is athletes are learning. So I'm going to move into a whole other piece when it comes down to how to adjust your mentality, how to perform at a high level all the time. Like all these things, like not only have I done, but I've studied and figured out what works. Then I've applied these things to the athletes, saw their results. And again, their feedback comes back to me. I'm like, okay, this worked, this didn't. This did, this didn't, and so on. And as I repeat that, now when I present this information to you guys, again, it's already thought out, it's already seen, it's already proven. That's why the results seem so fast. How do you create this program and it's done and it works? Because I've gone through all that process, right? Um, I can talk about this on and on. I'll probably do another part of this about how to actually build your business. But if you're looking for specific support, I do have a coach's mentorship program. Okay. Send me a message, either comment below or send me an email at info@KeinanBriggs.com, where now I'm in a space of how do I teach coaches how to build this program and become profitable within your program. There were so many times where I was training clients and athletes 30 minutes. If a client wasn't there, then I didn't get paid for that time frame. So now I lost half of my hourly pay, right? Then I said, okay, I need to do something bigger and make more money. I then ran boot camps. The boot camps were made X amount of dollars. And I was like, wow, I made my day's pay that I would have made in one day in 1 hour. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And then I revolve that into how do I make a year's pay, my old year's pay in 2 or 3 months. And that's where I'm at now. So it's like that's pretty crazy to say that. And I'm just finding ways to duplicate that. And it's simple. By whatever I learn, I put a price on it. Then I sell you the simplified version that makes it easier for you to get to where you got to get to. So my coach's program is those 20 years of brand building and awareness put into a 6-week program. Simple. All right. Right now it's person to person, but it's eventually going to evolve into a group setting, because as I get better at explaining it person to person and seeing the results play out how they have been, then it moves into the group setting, because again, you're going to learn the same way. And yeah, a lot of good stuff happening coming up this year. And there's more to my personal story, but I don't want to bore you guys. But basically, you can build your brand, you can build your business, you can get into coaching full time as long as you're willing to put the time in and learn. I learned more in, man, I want to say a year than I did my whole college career. And I got to choose the exact books I was reading. I got to apply and see this life thing. And now what I'm doing is I'm traveling to business seminars to learn how to run a business, because fitness is great. Anyone can get in shape, even you. If you're watching this, great. Write a workout, have a person do it for X amount of weeks, they're going to improve. But now, how do you sustain that? How do you keep that going? How do you actually build it to where you can train someone else to do the exact same thing, to where now you're sitting at home relaxing? My Jump 101 program does really good, and I make a good amount of money with that program itself. I spent 2 weeks putting the actual thing together. I spent 20 years putting the programming together, but 2 weeks to record it and spit it out. And now that makes money each and every single year. And that's great. Last year I just like, you know what, I'm gonna use this money for my wedding, you know, and then now the wedding's done, I can use the money to reinvest into something else. And it's increasing each year because more people are becoming aware of it. I know the views on here are small. I'm not getting that many views on these videos because I know they're ahead of its time. And the views are gonna come. It's okay. But the handful of people that are watching it get it, and you guys are ahead of the curve. You're ahead of the game and learning so much more. So, all right, I'm done rambling. Just 27 minutes already. But if you want to learn more about what I'm talking about, please shoot me an email or a comment below, and I'll talk to you guys